Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Wednesday, January 6th, 2021, and is this year starting off to a very, very unfortunate start. Last night, the Democratic Party won back the United States Senate, and you would think that today that would be the most important thing of the entire news cycle. You know, I was looking through Twitter in the morning. That's all we really heard about. When we're looking at the possibility of the election results being contested, that was probably going to come up as second. You know, there wasn't going to be this super big debacle that really unfolded that was at least expected by members of Congress. And as we actually started going through the day, things only started getting worse in the nation's capital. So looking at what actually unfolded at the Capitol building, there was a very large amount, 30,000 people estimated by CNN, very large amount of people that believed that the election was fraudulently won by Joe Biden, or at least not even won, just stolen directly from President Trump. And as a result, a lot of them ended up going to the Capitol building. Many of them attended President Trump's rally, his likely to be final rally as President of the United States, and actually took full-on action to a point where they broke through the United States Capitol. They broke into the building and they raided congressional offices, forcing senators, representatives down into tunnels, wearing gas masks, afraid of what might actually unfold. In fact, there are countless photos of people inside the exact House chamber, right where Nancy Pelosi was, the congressional chamber, right where even Pence and Pelosi were, people stealing things from congressional offices. It was insane. Everything that we saw was nothing that we had ever seen in American history, dating all the way back to the last time where the Capitol building was actually raided, in 1814, when the British burned down the Capitol building. So when you're looking at what actually happened today, the Congress had this, they convened, and they pretty much put aside the congressional vote. They went down into their bunker, not necessarily their bunker, but to an undisclosed location, but we know that it's probably somewhere very secure, somewhere very safe, and they put everything on hold because of what was happening above ground, what was happening on the steps of the Capitol. And in Washington, D.C., we actually saw cops from Virginia, or police from Virginia, and other states that were just involving themselves in what was happening. Even, I think, Andrew Cuomo sent down troops from, not necessarily troops, I think, the National Guard from the state of New York, down to the District of Columbia because of what was happening. There was so much that was unfolding, and it was clear that Capitol Police could not handle it. It was clear that Capitol Police could not handle it. And as these violent rioters continued to push and press the police force in the Capitol building and on congressional grounds, they eventually broke through. They broke through windows and they stormed the nation's capital. And when you're thinking about everything that occurred, you have to ask, why did this happen? Well, there's a multitude of reasons. Number one is absolutely the fact that Trump has not conceded the election. What does this actually tell these voters and these people that were storming the Capitol building? Well, essentially, they're being told that the election was unfairly stolen, and these are the people who are upholding an unfair election. People are going to be angry. If they truly believe that the election was stolen and they believe that their representative is there going to essentially, quote-unquote, steal the election again for Joe Biden, they're probably going to show up and show out, and they're probably going to try to do anything they can to stop that. So when Donald Trump held that rally this morning and made numerous statements, even through this afternoon, through this evening, that the election was stolen, that the Democratic Party has quote-unquote evil people, that's the opposition party against Trump, really, these rioters were so angry enough that they actually did take action. They did take action. They used exactly what Rudy Giuliani said. What he said, he meant it. Whether or not he meant that through Congress or whether he meant that physically, they took that in a sense and actually went in and used violence and used anger to force their way into the Capitol building and essentially just break and entering. And there were probably, tens, possibly hundreds of people in the Capitol building that should not have been there. There were so many things that unfolded today. I can't even summarize everything that happened because you would probably have to go minute by minute to see just how much happened. We can scroll through here, but enough so that there's now a D.C. curfew. Someone died. A woman was shot by, I believe, the Secret Service. Now Twitter and Facebook have banned President Trump for a very short period of time and have warned him that he could be permanently banned if he continues to incite violence and to argue that the election was stolen from the Democratic Party. There were so many things that happened today, and it was very, very unfortunate for America. This is not the America that people could be proud of. You could not look at today's situation and be proud of it. And there is one party that is going to look solely responsible, and it's not the Democratic Party. So what actually happened before Donald Trump held this rally today? Well, I'm sure you all know, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, that the Democratic Party won back the United States Senate last night. Like I said, this should have been the biggest news story for weeks to come. But obviously it wasn't. It was overshadowed by everything that occurred today. And I see why members of the Republican Party might be upset with the election results. Nobody likes to lose an election or two. But looking at the Senate results, this likely fueled many of those people that probably wouldn't have showed up before to actually go to the Capitol building, to actually make a stance, and a very unfortunate one, a very sad one. Trying to raid the Capitol building because you lose an election is never going to be a good look. It is never going to be something that is going to be praised. Republicans in the Senate, Republicans in the House have condemned the violence. But President Trump, while he did say, be peaceful and go home, released a 1-minute video where the overwhelming majority of the video, he was arguing that the election was fraudulent. Joe Biden, the president-elect, made a longer statement than President Trump. What happened today in the Capitol has moved beyond partisanship to condemn. What happened was people lawlessly going to the Capitol and breaking through. This is not comparable to protest for a fair legal system. When you look at the statistic that 93% of Black Lives Matter protests were peaceful, 93%. That's more than 9 in 10 protests. Obviously, some people are going to try to take advantage of a situation. And the overwhelming majority of them none of them actually are a representative of what the Black Lives Matter movement stands for. BLM is not this movement that is trying to take advantage of what is happening. Everything that they've argued for is to avoid the innocent killing of Black Americans. That's not, looking at what the organization stands for, that's what it stands for. I don't see any type of messaging even vaguely similar with what these rioters did on the Capitol building today, and neither will the American people. The American people support BLM. They showed that in opinion polling data and in their election results here and in Georgia. The American people, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, need to condemn this, and many of them have. The majority of Americans do not support what happened today in the Capitol building. 45% of Republicans, according to a YouGov poll, have agreed that what happened in the Capitol building was justified. 43% say it wasn't justified. Isn't that alarming? You see, when you see that fracture within the GOP, you do have to question, what does this mean for the GOP moving forward? Well, you guys, looking at the map, I can't form any argument for the Republican Party to look at this as a favorable outcome. Not only did they lose 2 Senate seats last night, but they lost all credibility to try to argue that the left wing does, protests and riots when they lose an election. Because simply put, this happened as a result of the Senate elections in Georgia going to the Democratic Party and Donald Trump losing the election. But his refusal to concede is probably fueling this effort 100 times more. If Donald Trump had conceded the election immediately after, 4 days after when he officially lost, we probably wouldn't have seen what unfolded today occur. We probably wouldn't have. Just because of the fact that if the if the Republican Party conceded, they would have probably won these Georgia Senate races, and there would be no need to protest because Donald Trump is telling his supporters that he lost. But when you had the leader of the free world telling his supporters enough so that 74 to 80% of Republicans believe the election was stolen, well, they're going to be angry. If they're being told that their vote didn't really count, or that a state that they live in, a swing state, let's take Georgia, for example. If you're being told that Georgia was stolen last night and in November, and you truly believe that, you're going to go to the Capitol. You're going to want to ensure that these senators vote to get rid of the Electoral College and to essentially say that Donald Trump won the election. That's assuming that you believe what Donald Trump has been saying for the past 2 months, and that you also believe that last night's elections were stolen. And that's a lot of the anger. The anger that really shouldn't be there if President Trump just owned up to his loss in the beginning. Because Donald Trump did lose the 2020 election. That is not a biased statement. Donald Trump lost, and people are now suffering because he's refusing to concede. because people look at last night's results and they think it was rigged again. All he had to do was say graciously that he lost. Because no matter how hard he's tried to overturn these election results, democracy will always prevail. Which is why Mike Pence will certify that Joe Biden won as they get through this, as they get through the debate, as they continue to certify the states. Biden will be certified by Mike Pence. It was always going to arrive at the same conclusion that Donald Trump was leaving office. But Donald Trump lost 2 Senate races for the Republican Party. The Republican Party is now in disarray as to how to handle this situation. And there are midterm elections in 2 years. The Republican Party direly needs to win back the suburbs, or they're not going to win in key battleground states. They desperately need to win back the suburbs. And after what unfolded today, there is not a single political party other than the Republican Party that you can try to put this on. Because you have a picture of Josh Hawley going out there, saluting the protesters, encouraging them. You have Rudy Giuliani's words today that, plainly put, come across as if he was encouraging the violence. Rudy Giuliani said, let's have trial by combat. How else are you supposed to take that? Let's have trial by combat. This is following after 60 court cases that didn't work. After state legislatures that didn't work. Going through every form of government, the Supreme Court at that didn't work. And he says, let's have trial by combat. And President Trump goes out this morning saying, we will never concede. We will never concede this election. So you have a group of voters who believe that the election was stolen from them twice. And then also, on top of that, they believe the Republican Party has turned their backs on them. So no one in Congress is there for them. They have 60 representatives out of 435, and they have 12 senators out of 50? When they have only 12 and 60, nearing 70 to 80 in total congressional members, they really have no friends in Congress. President Trump is not supported by the majority of the GOP congressmen and the GOP senators that we see. All of these representatives have pretty much, I guess not necessarily explicitly, but it's kind of understood that they are going to vote to certify the results because they're not going to object to it. Many of these Republicans are not siding with President Trump that the election was rigged. So these rioters are angry enough so that they stormed the Capitol building. And this gives a very negative view towards the Republican Party. Extremely negative. Enough so that people, prominent names in the GOP, such as Sarah Palin, have even floated the idea of forming a third party. GOP senators are starting to say that Donald Trump is responsible for what happened at the Capitol. We saw the videos. A woman died as a result of this. People were shooting into the congressional chambers. People raided the congressional offices. They had to evacuate private housing. Senators had to go underground with gas masks, afraid of what might actually happen. These rioters were so angry that they completely pushed off every type of law and raided what supposedly is one of the most protected parts of the United States government. This is the Capitol building. They were in the same building as the countless representatives and senators that are very notable. I mean, these people who stormed the Capitol should not have been there. This isn't some type of Capitol tour situation gone wrong. These are people breaking windows, breaking bulletproof windows, and breaking into congressional offices, breaking into legislative chambers where staffers had to put up furniture to prevent people from pushing through, where they had to hide under their seats with a gas mask on. All of these things that happened. There are pictures of people where Speaker Pelosi was and Vice President Pence was. There are people that were in Nancy Pelosi's office. There were people that broke through every part of the government. And they come from one wing of the Republican Party. It may not be representative of the entire Republican Party, but there's no way you look at this and say it will benefit the Republican Party. This is going to hurt them. Not only has President Trump not acknowledged he has lost the election, but this hurts Republican support amongst the suburbs. They kissed it goodbye today. Now, the American electorate has a very short memory. I'll give them that. But if any type of election was held today, I can guarantee it, the majority of the American people would look at that and say, Am I going to vote for someone who encouraged this? Are they going to vote for someone like Josh Hawley, who encouraged these protesters before he saw how bad it would get? Everyone's always regretful as you start receiving scrutiny for what you did. But it was very clear from the beginning that these rioters were angry, and they were going to try to do anything possible in order to overturn the election results. President Trump went through 60-plus court cases, went to the Supreme Court, lost. Went to the governors, lost. Went to the state legislatures, rejected. No matter what he tried to do, it wasn't going to happen. But these groups of people, these 30,000 people, stormed the Capitol, and this gives a very bad name to the GOP. Because looking ahead, I'm sure the Democrats they will use this as ammunition against the Republican Party. I'm telling you now, the Republican Party is not going to be able to try to argue that they are the party of law and order after this. What happened today takes away a lot of credibility from the GOP about, the Democratic Party riots when they lose. The Democratic Party is not the party of law and order. Because what we saw today were police officers fighting with Trump supporters. What we saw today were voters that voted for President Trump storming the Capitol building, forcing congressional members, Republicans and Democrats alike, into bunkers practically, into undisclosed locations, to a point where they feared for their lives. Gas masks. That's insane. Everything that was happening was completely unexpected, but at the same time, moderately expected. And when you look at the impact of this on the American electorate, and I know it may seem too early to discuss this, but it really isn't. Suburban America moved away from Donald Trump because they thought he was too extreme. And when they see Republican senators still going on to this idea that the election results should be contested, they're not going to be too favorable to them the next time they're on the ballot. Because they are going to remember what happened today. Over 200 years, 206 years have passed since the last time people breached the Capitol with a means of breaking in and actually raiding the place. 206 years, and it wasn't even American citizens who did it last time. It was the British. 206 years. All over 2 Senate seats in Georgia and a presidential race. So think about that. Think about everything that unfolded today. President Trump is already starting to be blamed by multiple members of the Republican caucuses, multiple senators on the Republican side, multiple former, representatives, former senators, former presidential candidates, former vice presidential candidates, condemning what the GOP displayed today. And it's only going to hinder them further. So after everything we saw today, it's not a partisan statement to say that this shouldn't have happened whatsoever. But there's a very clear, responsible party for this. And I think that the American people are going to remember this. Because this isn't something that, will just come and go. This is not another one of the slip-ups by a presidential candidate or, a tweet that was made by someone on either political party side. This was a very dark day for America. This was a very dark day for the American people, for American democracy. And like I had mentioned previously, democracy will always prevail. But it's very unfortunate it's taken this long, and there have been this many people injured. A lady died as a result of this. So many things that happened and unfolded, all to arrive at the same result, that Joe Biden will be the next president of the United States, and the Democratic Party will control the Senate. Had this been, conceded before by President Trump, none of these events would have likely transpired. And that's the unfortunate reality of what has happened today. And the American people will likely remember that. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch, and then a playlist for my post-2020 election videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.